do it again, just in the right iteration. First, I'm going to start with like if you are looking to scale without confusion, resistance, and lack of emotional regulation, and you want to feel good knowing your numbers instead of only self-deluding yourself to realize there is no accuracy in the business. There's no way for you to diagnose anything in the business. It's no different from why people find their number one way to numb themselves when they're not getting to the root issue as to why they can't just naturally be in state or sober. And so, if you've never been in state, if you literally have been conditioned to only get into state when you drink alcohol, when you smoke weed, when you do whatever bad habit you do, then of course you're going to be suffering. So when it comes to numbers, numbers don't really lie, do they? So people lie. They don't mean to lie, but they often do because it's a way for us to rationalize why we have a hard time sometimes at balancing our emotional mind versus our logical mind. Men have an easier time at making rational decisions. Women have a harder time at doing that, but that's because biologically women are designed to just always only do what pumps their state because they're nurturers for kids. Okay, kids emotionally regulate with their mothers. That's why it's hard for women to, many women, not all women, but many women, it's hard for them to actually do what they say they're going to do just because emotional regulation is of top priority for the female biology. Just so you know yourself better, and men also. That's another reason why men often bypass their feelings, or they're able to, there's positive, there's upsides and downsides to being a guy or a girl, but you need to know uh, about the human makeup so that you can actually create boundaries around yourself to that's why you focus on brain, because brain is not just it's not as biased as just looking at the gender itself. So now with that out of the way, we do want to look at, and by the way, once you get this done and you measure your habits every day, no different from how you would measure your habits in the gym and weigh yourself on the scale every day if you want to lose fat, like it actually does make you more peace at calm. It's kind of like when you're so in debt that you don't even want to look at it. Like you have this avoidant mentality. If any, who can relate with that? Like you don't want to look at your bank account. You don't want to look at your credit card, your credit. You don't want to look at anything because it's too painful, right? So I know that's really painful, but if you can just push through the pain and look at reality according to data, over time you're gonna change your relationship with numbers and data. Okay, it's just a skill set. So outbound is going to be, okay, this is going to be outbound, which is how many messages that you send out. I don't care if it's cold or warm outbound. This is going to be done by you and or a setter. So when you're ready and you want to delegate outbound DMs to a setter, drop a one in the box if that's of interest to you at some point in the near or distant future.
When you say setter, you mean like hiring somebody to be taking care of your DMs?
Yeah, I already have people. Guys, you have to realize how resourced I am and how lucky you are to be in this. Like, don't take your time for granted, guys. Don't take it because I went through trials and tribulations for years trying to sort out this whole delegation automation setter thing. And like once you realize how much time you waste from not from taking things for granted, right? The more value you place on your time. Okay, and we're gonna do some basic math to show you how much it costs people to not value their time and give you a lot of confidence, a lot of certainty. Would you like that?
Hmm. Let's do it.
Cool. So yes, the answer to your question is yeah. Like if you want to avoid the hassle and chaos of like hiring and firing constantly just to find a competent human being to execute on this, I can install a setter for way more competitive pricing, commission rate, breaking down the whole pricing structure. The first month is $1,000. Second month, and moving forward, it's $1,500 plus 10% commission of payment plans, cash collected, and 20% of pay in fulls. But you'll start to see that once you start cracking, 10, 20K months, paying 2,000 bucks a month or so, like 2,000, 3,000 bucks a month is worth it to you because you're still profiting at like at least 80% or so. So that's still a huge profit margin. I've worked with companies where my company itself, it's been at 45% profit margins at $100,000, $200,000 per month. You start to see like, oh shit, that shit adds up, eh? But with AI, now you don't have to have a big team. So that's good news for you. Yay, right?
We love AI.
Yeah, fuck yeah. The only issue with AI agentic setters is that although they work 24/7 around the clock and you can train them pretty good, they still send big ass bubbles of text and they respond like instantly. So like people know when they're talking to AI, they're not stupid. That's why we love setters who use Theo AI bot, which is the setter bot that we gave you, to send it in mini chunks of text, no longer than 3 lines of text per message. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right? Like it's attractive to use ManyChat. It's attractive to use agentic AI bots, but that's the only downside is that people who are not dumb, which is like a good portion of people, they know it's AI. Get that? But it's getting closer. AI is definitely getting closer as to like learning your brand personality, your lingo, your offer, your message, like your slang and stuff. It's better. It's getting better at that, but it still has that issue of not sending it in blocks of text and mini blocks of text. So, anyways,
Mhm.
that's why we crush it with like we bake this into the initial offer for you guys who's come into the Align Royalty before you upgrade to Elite 7 Circle, where you scale from 20K months to 100K months. Like, obviously, that cohort is smaller than this one, and that there's several of these little mini cohorts. We want to keep these intimate because I know that having these bigger cohorts is attractive for the founder, but for the client, it's really not very valuable because you feel like you're just in a sea of people. You don't get that hands-on support. So, with that being said, outbound is like 25 a day, or let's just say, like, if you're starting to cultivate that habit, just start with like maybe 5 to 10 a day. And then every week, just bump it up 5 messages per day. And then you'll cultivate that muscle of execution, of consistency. Then replies is it this if you look at this little arrow, it says going back and forth. So that just means that there's a conversation being had, and they actually positively replied to your first message, and now they're in the qualification stage. This is inbound, okay? Um, this is also inbound. How many people showed from the inbound? This is when you outbound a sales invitation. So you're the one actually suggesting the call, and you've qualified in DMs. This is how many you've invited, like you sent a link, and this is how many they actually got on the calendar. So you'll notice that the reason there's two different numbers for this is because there will be a number of people who have you've invited to chat, but they haven't yet gotten on the actual calendar. Does that make sense?
Mhm. So for the set call booked, you're saying inbound. That means they requested the call.
Yeah, that's correct. Like they either yeah, they basically inbound DM'd you and they requested a call. It Yeah, that's pretty much how that works.
Okay.
Or like for our funnel, like it's Instagram short format to long format YouTube. And so on your YouTube, if you copy my caption default, like if you just go to my YouTube Theo Soul Cummings and you look at all of the captions, they're actually all the same. And the call to action at the bottom is like to book a call. for the main video. And so if they inbound book, that's like where you measure that. I don't suggest putting a call in your link in bio because it's too low status. It's too you're making yourself too available. In other words,
Mm,
you want to have
okay.
a DM qualifying conversation so that you avoid the mistake that too many coaches make of like just having a link in bio. It doesn't make you look like higher status. It's like having no boundaries in your life, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Like the wall of China, right? Like you want to be like the wall of China. You don't want to be like a little like baseball park fence that anyone could just hop over. Um, okay. You want to give you like Rolex vibes, not like Apple Watch vibes. Commodity vibes versus category one vibes, luxury vibes. So, sales call booked, scheduled sales call on day. That's when it's like immediate. But just you don't have to do this one. What matters is that you see how many people booked, and then sales. This is revenue sold is separate from cash collected because obviously if it's a PIF, pay in full, then it's going to be like 5K 5K. But if it's revenue signed, let's say it's 6K, and then you took a 2K deposit, that's why we have these numbers separated.
Okay.
Okay. And then resigns is where you put in like monthly recurring revenue for people.
Resigns, like if your program, like for example, if Dan and I are on your 6 month program and then we re-sign for another 6 months, that's the monthly recurring,
Yeah,
or
so
is it
great
they're
question. So
paying?
the pricing model that we implement is the best one. It's like you give someone a timeline. So for example, 6 months, and then you tell them you can do the rest of the year month to month for X amount per month. So for you guys, after 6 months, it's $500 a month. It's very cheap. It's no, I don't want to say cheap. I don't. I just mean it's affordable. So
Mhm.
500 a month is like okay, you're still under like 15 20K, and you just want to stay at this level like and just pay 500 a month. That's definitely possible for you. But
Mhm.
if you want to pay what is it, $1,500 a month, then you go up to the next cohort, and that's where time kind of changes. Like, let me put it this way. So, um, the reason why I say time changes is because basically business is all about your capacity. It's all about your ability to think like creatively, and your timeline, your sense of time goes from time for money, like time management, and it goes into something called project management. And the reason why management is more lucid and free flowing is because your time becomes much more valuable, and so you're really like only doing high leverage tasks which tend to take more time. So what I mean by that is that you may have a project where you are creating like a YouTube video, or you may have like some different projects that do take a lot of time to like create. So you'll have that on top of the daily uh, tasks, basically. So yeah, sure, you may be coaching clients, you may be training your team, you may be hiring or whatever. You just may be doing something on the day to day, but then in the background you have important but not urgent tasks that you just need to crack away at. This is an example of this for you, Anara, is like, you have this live event to help me with. And so that's a project uh that, like, if you don't just keep working on in the background, it's never going to get done.
Mhm.
Even though it's not like, oh shit, okay, this is our top cash machine. It's not like, so it's like a project. So it's like a long-term project.
Okay.
Another long-term project for you guys is to create something called the virtual sales letter, which is a 10-minute video that talks about your story. your mechanisms, client case studies, and your philosophy. And that does take time to like script, to record, to edit, to do all that stuff. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of what I mean by project management, long-term project management.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's that's how that works.
Okay.
Um, and then yeah, so that's basically how that works. Now when you're in the transition phase from like getting a setter installed in your company, like you still will take over this. Like think of it this way, right? Like so now that there's two people versus one, they're accountable for outbound numbers and tracking the inbound, like the positive replies, and like new messages you have in your inbox every day. But then you'll be tracking the what's it called, the sales calls sent, and you'll just be like coordinating with them to make sure that these numbers you're going to be the one responsible for filling in these numbers. Doesn't mean that they can't also track this, but you'll both have access to this document. So
Yeah,
it's just
I
no.
pasted it to my sales folder now.
What's that?
I put it in my sales folder now.
Yeah,
So
for sure, for sure. Um, and then what else? What else? What else? Okay, so let's say we did like $5,000. So this is like Jen W. Okay, so that's her name, right? 3,000. You see? So now, like, if you have people on payment plans, you can keep track of who's who, and that's important because when you get payment plans, you go down here, you duplicate. I don't know why it's taking a minute to, and then you just rename this January, March, April. See that? So now on this side, it's gonna copy, but then you just change it over to here, and then you add them. You make sure that they're added to this. And then for Jen, like let's say it's Jen, she went on a 3 month payment plan. You just say 1-3 so that you know, like, oh, this is the first month for her payment plan. And this would be technically uh, two, 2 out of 3. You see how tracking this shit is like everything.
mhm.
If you need to extend the bars like a little bit, it's up here. So you can kind of have an easier time at reading everything. Um, but this is how you keep track of like payment plans, pay in full. And if Tom paid in full for 3K, then it's just PIF. And then you obviously just copy that number over. If this is like 1,500, this is where you'd put Jen actually. 2-3. And then this would be 1-3. Alrighty. So um now like when these numbers are filled out though, what's awesome though is that we can see what the statistics should be. Like for instance, 15 to 20% is a good conversion rate for positive replies for this. And then about 50% should actually be able to transition over into booking a call. Like 50% of this previous column should be a reasonable statistic to book a call. And then out of the calls booked, so like let's say you did 5 calls this week, and then 5 calls confirmed, then they do 5. Let's say 4 people showed up this today. just remember you're measuring this per day. Okay, this is not per week. But down here it says weekly results. So you add them all up. So um once you get that done, you start to see, okay, out of all these people who showed, you're gonna have a number here, and then let's say you close 3 out of 4, your closing rate is 75%. Make sense? Now, if let's say you make an offer and then they rebook for the next week, like as a follow-up sales call, then you would just put like a new metric here so that you keep track of that right there. See that? And you can even, if you really want, you can put their name too. See how that works? Okay.
Oh, I realized it was muted. Um, then that is there a formula though for the weekly results? Because then it won't pick it up. You could put like comment in there rather than a note next to the number.
What?
If you put the parentheses with the name, then the weekly result won't pull that number because now it's not just a number. But a way that it could be different is if you right click on the cell,
Yeah.
you could just add a comment. Yeah, like that. That comment that you have. That way you see like who's what and can put an even more extended comment.
With their name. Oh, yeah. I mean, you could put their name, yeah, for sure. Name. And then that's
Like 3 payment plan or 2 times payment.
but you
Or
want to keep
whatever.
track, yeah, you want to keep track of every single person.
Yes.
See, the thing is that for this, like for this and payment number example would be like 1 out of 3 for first month of payment. Okay, for this. But the key here is that when you look at this, now what I'm going to do is I'm going, if you have any questions, just pop them over. But this is huge when you start doing the follower ad to spend like 25, $30 a day on a carousel or reel. And then you're going to measure profile views, new follows, qualified follows. And you manually count, how many follows, how many qualified follows from looking at their bio, and then any inbound from like direct inbound combo. So you'll also measure like if you get just random inbound requests from leads, this is where you track that. So if you have any questions whatsoever on this, just let me know. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording